For me, as we get close to the trading deadline, and that'll be the discussion after the All-Star histrionics wrap up next week, the most interesting team isn't whether or not the Cardinals are going to punt. It's not whether or not the Yankees go out and try to buy somebody. It's not whether or not the Giants try to add to their starting pitching ranks. For me, it's the Baltimore Orioles. Off to a terrific start. Their rebuild has come together brilliantly. What Mike Elias and his staff has done in terms of making ballpark ramifications, making adjustments to the way they operate, drafting brilliantly, it's all come together for Baltimore. So they have some choices. And here's the big discussion around the Orioles when we get to the trade deadline. Do they have enough starting pitching? If you're among those that say no, you probably point to these numbers. Their starting staff ERA next to the bottom in the American League, and it's pretty low when you talk about Major League Baseball in general, although the numbers since the end of May are a little bit more encouraging. Not favorable ranks. So let's start to look at some of the individual parts, some of the individual starters on this staff. Tyler Wells is a, without question, top of the rotation guy. He's got great numbers. He's a horse. He posts up, averaging better than 6 innings a start. Wells is certainly the guy that would get the ball if the season were to end today in a short postseason series. Kyle Gibson had a really good run for 6 starts before posting 2 clunkers back-to-back in his most 2 recent outings. However, his ground ball numbers are still great. He has turned over a staff-best 15 double play balls, and he's the only guy in their starting rotation with postseason experience. Kyle Bradish, really good year. Yes, his fastball gets hit around a little bit. Opponents are hitting $150 on his curveball, $188 on his slider, and he has averaged 6+ innings over his last 5 starts. Beyond that, a little bit of a dice roll. So the Orioles have choices to make getting into the trading deadline. They do have this. They've got one of the deepest farm systems in the land. Take a look at the top 100s that are in the Orioles pipeline, and some of these guys are already there. We didn't even put Grayson Rodriguez on this list because he's no longer considered a quote-unquote minor league prospect, having been at the big leagues to start the season. He's winning at the minor league level again. Walk numbers are still a little bit high, but you've got to kind of consider Grayson Rodriguez when you talk about the talent. Who did we highlight here? Colton Cowser. Interesting. He is the Orioles' first-round pick in 2021. They took him 5th overall that year. He's 23 years old. He's got a super bright future ahead of him. Would he be a guy that could play at the big league level this year? Or would he be a guy that they think about maybe making a move for? I think he's got a better chance, as does the great Lee Sinis, who put this information together for this program. Better chance maybe to play in the big leagues than to be traded. How about Colby Mayo? He's 77 overall on the MLB Pipeline 100 prospects list. Power hitting guy, 45 homers in just over 200 minor league games. Big numbers this year at Double-A. I mean, these are just a couple of the many choices that an opposing GM would have to pick from if, in fact, the Orioles decide to make a move to bolster their pitching ranks. This is the problem. The limited number of trade partners that are out there. We always circle around the bottom feeders. Who can you extract off the Oakland roster at this point? The Rockies, the Royals, do they have pitching that they want to part with to try to build for 2027, which is always the way in cities like that. But if you really are serious about acquiring veteran starting pitching at the break, you need to look no farther than the Windy City, because there are no fewer than 4 established major league starters between the White Sox and the Cubs rosters who are hit free agency, scheduled to hit free agency at the end of the year. Now, the problem is this. The White Sox and Cubs are likely to be in it as at least wild card entries for a while. So for Marcus Stroman to get dealt, for Lucas Giolito to get dealt off of a roster that might still be in contention in September, you're going to have to come up with a pretty good prospect package. And then there's this caveat, maybe most powerful of all. There are some recent hideous examples of teams who make deadline deals because they think they're in it. They give up prospects, and those prospects end up being generational talent. Hey, James Shields was a really good big leagues frontline starting pitcher at the time of this trade. But on June 4th, 2016, the only thing we knew about Fernando Tatis Jr. was that he had a dad that hit 2 grand slams in the same inning against Chen-Ho Park in L.A. We weren't sure how it was going to work out. I think we know how it worked out at this point. What about this one? The Cubs went out and got Jose Quintana, and everybody on the north side was like, yeah, we got Jose Quintana. We're loaded for bear. Look what they gave up. Dylan Cease, Matt Rose, Bryant Fleet, and Eloy Jimenez. I mean, you could stop at Dylan Cease, and it's a bad trade. No offense to anybody. So these are the things that a GM would have to worry about, Mike Elias, if they decide to push in, make that move for starting pitching because they're in it this year, and then they give up somebody who really hits in a big way. It's all fascinating stuff. The Orioles have done this perfectly the last few years. I have little doubt that they'll make the right choices because they, unlike some teams, really do know their own.